my mother told me I was beautiful, but I needed my nose fixed. And I remember looking at her and like, Mom, I've never complained about my nose. I don't understand why people need to turn themselves into something that they're not.
It is on.
Hi, everyone. Today I'm talking to makeup mogul Bobbi Brown. When you think of Cara, you do not think of makeup, that's obviously, but I actually use Bobbi Brown's products because I like them because they're simple and natural. I also am more interested in her business as an entrepreneur and as a woman entrepreneur. She grew an enormous business with Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, where she sold it to Estée Lauder, and then had a really difficult departure from there after building it into an enormous billion-dollar business. She then started Jones Rhodes many years later after she was out of a non-compete. And so her struggles at entrepreneurship are really interesting to me, and it's very difficult to build two beauty brands in one lifetime, and she's done that. And I want to talk to her about that, because it has a lot of issues around social media, around the changing nature of retail, all kinds of things. So it's not just a beautiful foundation. There's a lot more going on there. This is a really fun one, so keep watching. Bobbi, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me on.
You're well known for, obviously, your brands, your makeup brands, but this is a book about your journey as an entrepreneur, right? The idea of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how you become one. And even though a lot of the focus on entrepreneurship tends to be on tech, you were really innovative early on in this space. Your new book is called Still Bobbi. It's your 10th, but your first memoir. And according to the New York Times the interview you did, this isn't a tell-all. And you say you were strategic with your words. That said, the Times also noted candor is her calling card, relatability is her stock in trade. You're 68 now. You found two successful makeup brands. You and your husband own a boutique hotel. And you say you didn't sign a non-disparagement agreement with Estée Lauder. Curious why it wasn't a tell-all. I bet you know a lot more stuff than you told here.
I'm from Chicago. I'm, a nice Midwestern girl. And you know what? I was taught you don't need to hurt people's feelings. You just don't. And I also didn't want to come across like I was anger, and bitter, because I'm not. In the beginning when I left, I was all those things, and I had to really work hard to get the emotions out of my system. And, it took me a good year or two, and nothing like another success to kind of get you over the first, I looked at it as failure. They canceled my work contract, and to me, that was being fired. I didn't want to stay the face of the brand without having anything to do with the brand. So, I was not going to sign a non-disparagement, but I don't need to disparage them. And there were so many good things. So, I'll be happy to tell you any of the disparaging things when we're off camera.
One of the great lessons of entrepreneurship is failure, obviously.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I've had failures. I started a wellness brand after I left Bobbi Brown called Evolution 18. We brilliantly launched at Walmart. It was not a success, but it was a great learning opportunity to, how to have a digital brand before I started Jones Road. I had a 4.5 years left on a 25-year non-compete when I left the company. So I had to fill myself with things to do because, just my kids were out of the house. And, honestly, what would you do if all of a sudden you couldn't work? Would you play tennis? I don't know what I would do.
Right. So, but let's talk about a big picture view of the beauty industry. Obviously, that's where you've made your bones, essentially. And it's gone through a lot of change in the past decade. The global market is worth $450 billion. It's experienced rapid growth, but the pandemic changed the way a lot of the relationship people had with cosmetics. In the past decade, we've also seen the rise of celebrity-driven brands like Kylie Cosmetics and Fenty, from Rihanna, and a focus on inclusivity. And of course, the internet has played a big role in the industry's evolution, enabling direct-to-consumer brands. YouTube and social media are the perfect vehicle for this kind of organic contact around makeup. It's one of the most popular areas of those things. Talk about that evolution of where the industry was and where it is right now, because you've jumped really 2 feet into it, essentially, from being part of one that was sort of went to department stores. Talk about the evolution a little bit of beauty.
Well, first of all, when I first started, the Bobbi Brown Cosmetics in the beginning, the way it even got on the map is a friend of mine was an editor at Glamour magazine, and she said, "Can I write about these lipsticks you're doing?" And I was like, "Why would you want to do that?" Now I know that was PR. And then I was doing a lot of magazines because that's how my name got out there and people heard about me. And then one day I met this wonderful woman at a book signing who told me that she thought I was, great when she saw me on the Today Show. And she said, "Is there anything else you want to do?" And it popped into my head, I want to be a regular on the Today Show. And she said, "Honey, Jeff Zucker is my grandson." And so,
Oh, wow.
so I got on the Today Show. I was the beauty editor for 14 years. And that was the first way to reach people and to really grow consumers. And I never talked about my brand.
Right. So you were taking advantage of the media of the day, the most
Right.
popular.
I've always loved media, and I've always loved teaching. Like, what I do is to teach people, you don't have to look like that. You don't have to wear your makeup like that. You don't have to shoot shit in your face. Like, there's alternatives to everything. Because I really do think the reason people wear makeup is to not look tired, to not look stressed, and to just look prettier. And then, yes, in order to promote the brand, I would have to travel all over the globe because it was a big, giant company. And I would go into stores, and how many people could you see? 100, 120? And so I worked my butt, and it cost a lot of money, by the way, flying me and my team from one place to another. And then when things started to change and, some of the newer brands came on the market, like Glossier, which was the first kind of direct-to-consumer, messy hair makeup brand, that inspired me to try to do things differently. I couldn't get, any groundswell at my old company. So when I left, I had visions of what I wanted to do with the new company.
With the new company, which you couldn't do for several years, correct?
No, not till we launched Jones Road the day my 25-year non-compete was up, 1 week before the presidential elections, right in the middle of the pandemic. And we just turned on the lights, and everything was different from
And
that.
what was the methodology of once you sold to Estée Lauder to sell? What was what was happening there?
Well, it's amazing when I look back. We sold Bobbi Brown Cosmetics to Estée Lauder after 4.5 years. And, I signed
After growing it by doing all these. Right.
No, but after having it for 4.5 years, I stayed at Estée Lauder as a corporate employee for 22 years. And there is nothing corporate about me. So it was great. I learned a lot, and then
That's
it got
22 years, so there was
22
something
years.
corporate about you, obviously.
No, look, I'm not someone that breaks rules. I like to make up my own. But I had people there who knew who I was, knew what my value was, knew what what I can add, and they supported me until things changed and there was different people and the industry was changing, right? It was contour palettes and all of these things. And here's a department store brand that couldn't get out of their own way. And I think the traditional companies really struggled for a while.
Talk about the department store brand. Explain that for people who don't know.
Yeah, when a lot of people are in department stores, a lot of cosmetics companies are in department stores because that's where people shop. And that's where they shop for makeup, or that's where they shopped. But people
And
don't.
that's how Estée Lauder.
That is definitely the Estée Lauder, and that's how they do it. But things were changing, and people don't go to department stores anymore. I mean, I don't remember the last time I went into a department store and tried on clothes and bought clothes. I do everything, D2C. Even if I want something from a department store, I go D2C.
So when you sold to Estée Lauder, though, that was the paradigm. This was in let me just get this right, 1995. They bought your company, Bobbi Brown Essentials, which had started off by selling a lipstick deal at Bergdorf Goodman too, right? Which another famous and fantastic department store still. But you were an indie brand they bought. They couldn't do what you did, and so they bought you, paid you $75 million, and put you on this 25-year agreement, which seems incomprehensible today.
We also had a buyout, by the way. So, I mean, there was a lot of reason for me to stay. It was financial, but also I used to go to work like it was my company. I never really separated myself from my company. It was my baby and my brand, which was really difficult when I left.
Right. So what factored into your decision to sell first, and then talk a little bit about your decision to leave, besides people changing? Again, 22 years is a long time, but there was a few small indie
Right,
products, but not
right.
many.
No,
So
there wasn't many in the beginning,
why
you
did you
know?
sell in the first
Well, we
place?
sold because, first of all, it was Leonard Lauder
Mhm,
who made the contact, and,
mhm,
Lauder was a much smaller corporation back then. They didn't have all the brands they have now, and it was really a family business, and it was such a great fit, and my husband and I had partners that we started the company when we got into Bergdorf with, and it was a really, not easy relationships, we
mhm,
did really well together, but it was really personality tough,
mhm,
and I did not wanna continue working with them, and that
mhm,
was a perfect way for us to grow the company, and Leonard Lauder said to me, he said, "Look, I know you wanna be a mother and you wanna spend time with your family, and we can help you grow your company while you do what you love, and the things you don't love, we will take care of."
mhm,
And, that was the promise he made.
mhm,
And, he also promised that I'd have total autonomy,
mhm,
and it worked really well when I had this autonomy. When I
mhm.
didn't have it anymore, it didn't work very well.
What changed? The people or the
Well, people started to change, and then little things happen. I mean, look, I could handle being encouraged or pressured into creating products I didn't believe in, because I would always try to figure out how to make them right for the brand. For example, there was a lot of, angst about me doing a whitening skin product. I mean,
Mhm,
anyone that knows me, I will not tell people to lighten their skin. But
mhm,
I realized what they really wanted was brightening. So we
mhm,
interpreted and made it very on brand.
mhm,
And, I always had a fight for things like not getting rid of the lowest selling SKUs, which were, colors for dark skin. I'm like, guys, I'm not getting rid of them. When a woman comes to the counter, she needs to find her colors. So, there was struggle, but then, the industry started to change and I wouldn't do contour palettes
mhm,
because I don't believe in contour and I
mhm.
wouldn't do it. I didn't
What do you have
care.
against contour? If
Why do
please
you need to
educate.
tell someone that they have to change the shape of their face? I
Mhm,
don't. First of all, when most people do contour on themselves, it looks like they have dirt or it looks like, it just doesn't look right. So, and it just what do you need to change? Like to me, it's the same. My mother told me I was beautiful, but I needed my nose fixed. And I remember looking at her and like, "Mom, I've never complained about my nose." I don't understand why people need to turn themselves into something that they're not.
well, that's a bigger issue we'll get to later, this idea of things that are happening now, but when you were, there, I have been in the same position. I really don't like people mom someone said, "Why do you leave places?" I go, "I don't like mama telling me what to do," essentially, and I don't and at one point when I left somewhere else, they said, "Why are you leaving?" I'm like, "I don't wanna talk to you anymore." I don't know what else to say as an entrepreneur. You're not doing what I like, or whatever. When you go along with people as an entrepreneur, can you talk about this, doing things that are sort of unnatural to you, like a contour palette or whitening
Yeah.
stuff?
No,
Talk
I won't
about
do
this,
it.
how you resist that, and you
Yeah.
can't. Most people don't,
Yeah.
correct?
Right. Well, I resist it because it just doesn't make any sense. I'm very easygoing until you're making me be something that I don't believe in. I get it. I know we have to increase our business. I know we have to grow our audience. I know we need competitive products. I know all of that. But it's got to be what's right. It always has to be what's right for the brand. And so, look, I'm not afraid of guys in suits. I'm just not afraid. So I have to, be nice, but I have to just say it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not who this brand is, and I would have to, stick to my guns.
And you said too many times you had to do that, presumably. Is that
I
what is something send you over the edge? Was it
No,
contour palettes? Was
no, because I didn't do a contour palette. They did I know they put one on the market when I left, but no, it's when people like, I used to interview every single person, not every person, but most of the people I would interview. And when all of a sudden these people started showing up and like, "Hi, I'm your new head of international. Hi, I'm this." And I'm like, "Excuse me?
Mhm,
I didn't meet them."
Mhm.
Well, we think they're gonna be the best for the brand. We
Mhm.
think this, we think
Mhm.
this. So I wasn't included
Mhm.
in what to me was important, which, was running and growing the brand. And when I left, it was $1 billion. It was a growing brand.
Right, and you're one of the small number of women who's lost control of their namesake brand around this time, especially, because either they left or were pushed out. I'm thinking of women like Kate Spade, Jill Sander, Donna Karan,
Dana Sure.
Betsy Johnson. In makeup, there's Toni Ko, who founded NYX. Talk about this. Did you see yourself in context of these other women, and what are the parallels and differences?
Well, I think very, very similar, very similar. And when I left, I thought, well, I'm done. I'm done. No one's going to ever call me up and ask me the hard breaking questions. The journalists, what do you like
Mhm.
to eat for breakfast? Where do you go on
Mhm.
vacation? I'm like, it's done. Those are the
Uh-huh.
questions that I get asked. But things started to change, and I realized at some point that I was a brand, not just the company, that there was two sides of me. But it was a really, really hard time in my life, and looking back, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because how do you grow and how do you learn, to get better? You have to kind of go through that. I mean, there was so many emotions, and yes, I definitely saw similarities with a lot of these women founders, and it happens to men too that have brands. I mean, there was like I forget, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. Was it Joseph Aboud, who
Mhm.
lost
Mhm.
control of his brand and his name, and
Mhm.
then he tried to start again, and they did everything to stop him. So my husband and I were following his case for a while after I left. So, it happens, like, shit happens. And then it's what you do with the shit that defines you. Like, some people don't go back to work, some people don't start something new. And, my age was also a factor. I
Mhm.
never thought about it.
Mhm.
I'm like, "All right, I'm in my 60s. Okay, that's okay. What else
Mhm.
am I gonna do?"
Right, right. So in every episode, this sort of dovetails that question. We get a question from an outside expert. Let's hear yours.
Hi, I'm Lauren Sherman, fashion correspondent at Puck. Hi, Bobby. Congrats on the book. It's been a long time coming. My question for you is, when creative entrepreneurs sell their companies, they usually have some sort of exit. You have to stay for 3 to 5 years, that type of thing. I mean, you sold in the 90s, so maybe it was a little different back then. But you stayed for what, 2 decades at Estée Lauder, which, as you know, we cover that company very closely at Puck, Rachel Strugatz. And it's not an easy business, even when it was doing well. It's a family-run company. There's there was a lot of succession drama with the family versus outside executives, that sort of thing. What made you stick around? Because you could have gotten out of it somehow. Maybe not. Maybe your non-compete was complicated, but you stayed. And I'm just curious, were there certain people in that company that made it worthwhile? Was it the infrastructure? Like, why did you stick it out for all that time? Because so many people who were in your position wouldn't have.
I stayed for 22 years because I was really happy, and I was fulfilled, and I was part of this process of growing the brand and trying new things and doing things differently. I had so much support. Those were the glory years, and every time I see some of my lieutenants from, the old country, as I call it, we just talk about the magic that we had. We really had this posse, creative brains that work together, in PR and marketing and in, finance. I even, our CFO is the one that taught me everything I needed to know about business. And it was glorious. It really was. And then when it wasn't, I thought I could turn it around to go back. And I thought I would have control again. And it really took my 94-year-old Aunt Alice to tell me, Bobby, it's time. It's time. I've been hearing you complain, and I've been hearing you complain every time I talk to you, and you keep saying you're gonna fix it. I don't think even you could fix this. And that's when I realized, but the truth is, when I went in for the final meeting, I really thought they were gonna come to me and say, "Here are all these great candidates we found to run your brand."
Uh-huh.
And that's not what happened
Uh-huh.
when I walked into the meeting.
Mhm.
So I was, again, naive.
Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of complaining. Whenever I start to complain too much, my family's like, "Stop it." And I have made that a policy now. The minute I start griping about people, it's my problem, which is hard. Now, toward the end of the book, and we're going to get to what you're doing now in a second, you talk about a conversation you had with Leonard Lauder, who you just spoke about, after his 90th birthday. I should note he died just a few months ago at 92. You write that during that conversation, you said he told you, "I promised I would take care of you and the brand, and I wasn't able to do that." Talk about that, and what was your response?
Well, we had this almost 3-hour lunch. It was supposed to be an hour. We stayed for 3 hours. I hadn't talked to him since that day where I left, quote, "got fired." But it was an amazing, meeting of these two people that really loved each other and worked hard. And when I went to leave and say goodbye, he said, "I have to apologize to you." And I said, "For what?" And he said, "Because I promised you I would always take care of you and your brand, and I couldn't do it." So, which made me realize he probably said, "Don't do this," but they did it anyways.
Yeah. What did you say to him?
I said, "Leonard, I wouldn't have changed a thing." First of all, I couldn't imagine being there now or when I left and having to fight to really fix things because the entire industry kind of turned into a mess. Um, you
So it
know,
would have been a very different thing
oh my
now.
God, it would have been very different. And people are still coming to me saying, "What if we buy Bobby and Jones? What would you do? Could you fix it?" And
Could you?
I'm sure I could. Do I want to is a different story.
Yeah, you wanna buy your name back. So, there is also reckoning of sorts happening right now, obviously. The beauty industry is relatively saturated with brands, and growth may be slowing. Some have folded. The former employer, Estée Lauder, as you noted, cut more than 3,000 jobs this year and says it could cut close to 4,000 more. Other major cosmetic companies are making similarly big cuts. Talk a little bit about, and then we're gonna talk about your own reinvention, the beauty industry in a larger sense, over the next 5 to 10 years, as you look at it.
Well, first of all, I was really worried when we were gonna launch a new brand. Like, am I a one-hit wonder? Am I gonna fail at this? And yeah, I was worried about that, but I didn't stop me from doing it. The industry has changed so much, and there are, so it's easy to start a brand. It's not difficult. There's so many ways to do it, and people are doing it. Some are successful, some are not. A lot are struggling, trying to figure it out. And being in business, it's not easy, and it's always problems. I don't care what business you're in. That's part of being in business. And our success and our growth has been amazing. At some point it was meteoric and it has slowed. So now we are like, have had to work on, still growing. We're just not growing like we were in the first couple years. And so, 5 years has turned it into a real business. But I'm not in a rush. I don't worry when things get a little slower because it's time to sit back and say, okay, what's working? What's not working? How could we do something a little better differently? And, it seems to be working again.
As you mentioned, the day your non-compete ended, you launched your new makeup line, Jones Road. It was October 2020, as you said, in the middle of the pandemic, and you did it without any outside investors. Um, uh, what was the thinking behind it, right, at that moment, and what were you trying to go for? You named it after a road in the Hamptons, is that correct?
Yes, we needed it. I mean, in order for me to launch it on the day I wanted to, I needed a name that weekend because no matter how many people we hired and friends that were help naming, couldn't come up. I mean, Gloria Steinem was helping me
Mhm.
name this company. We couldn't
Mhm.
come
What's
up
one
with
of
a
the
name.
names you didn't use?
You know what? I don't remember her names. She had a whole bunch, but one of these days I got to go find it.
What one was the second to Jones Road?
I mean, just enough.
Yeah. Oh,
I thought
no.
just enough. Right. So,
Yeah.
if I would have said Jones Road, you would have said no too, because it
Oh, yeah.
doesn't make any sense. My father said, "Oh, it's a terrible name," and now
Mhm.
he loves the name.
Mhm.
So you get used to it. It's like
Yeah, no, I named
naming a
Pivot. I
kid.
named Pivot, everyone
Right.
didn't like it,
Oh, I
so
love that name. How do
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
best name.
yeah.
So, we really thought why not just do this? And I thought, well, I'm not done teaching. And I had something new to teach. I wanted to teach women and men, but mostly women, that you don't need all that stuff to
Which
look
you had
good.
done before, correct?
R-
You were
I had done before in the beginning, but, by the time I left, we were teaching 10-step makeup routines and all, of course, you need a starter and a finisher. And, that's what the pressure to grow the company is, new products that maybe are not necessary. So I wanted to kind of clean the slate, start all over again, and just like teach women how all you need is the minimum. Of course, as we're growing, we're coming up with new amazing products, but I'm teaching women you don't have to use them all. They're here if you need them for different things.
and that was the concept behind Jones Road.
It's the concept, is how you could look like yourself and how to have, I love a glow in the skin. Like my aesthetic, the models always have positivity coming out of their eyes, then they have good skin, and they're not all models.
Hmm. So one of the other things you've done is target a certain area that others weren't targeting. A lot of things are targeted just to youth, for example. Now, Roads does well with women over 50, Gen X, elder millennials. It's sort of at a forefront of this trend. There's been a big, obviously, awakening about perimenopause with women like Oprah, Pamela Anderson, Julia Louis-Dreyfus leaning into it. But there aren't a lot of makeup companies actively targeting the demographic, I think. Was it a conscious decision on your part to take advantage of this trend, or just born out of your own experience?
I mean, I think it was more born out of my own experience at the beginning. I wanted to make sure that I had all skin colors covered. I wanted to have age covered. And I'll never forget, because I walked around the Hamptons looking for a woman. I had this vision, a woman of a certain age with like grayish hair and no work done in her face.
Hmm.
Not an easy thing.
Hmm.
Not an easy thing, especially in the Hamptons. But I
No,
did
I don't know
find
why you thought you could find that.
but I did. I found her at a farm stand. She had this long gray hair, this beautiful face. She's a mother of 5 kids. She's got a tattoo on her finger. Like, I also wanted to show interesting, cool looking people and honestly show the difference. This is no makeup, and look at this. And it's not like a big makeover, like you see all this makeup. They
Hmm.
just look so much better.
Hmm.
So it started
So what
that
did you say
way.
to this woman at the farm stand?
I
Would you like to
said,
pay $10 for that tomato and then talk to
no,
me?
no, I said, could you take your mask off? And she looked at me and I said, I'm Bobbi Brown. And I was still under a non-compete. So I said, I'm Bobbi Brown. And I said, I sometimes do shoots. Would you be interested in coming to model for me? And she said, well, people usually say something about my hair. And we tried it and I loved her. And then I brought her into our studio in New Jersey during the pandemic. We did our first big shoot.
Hmm.
And then she ended up getting Wilhelmina to represent her. So it was a
Wow.
big
Hmm.
career, change for her. She's not at the farm stand anymore.
But the idea was that you were going for different looks that weren't being because most of targeting is young people. Glossier kind of fell on that sword in a lot of ways.
Right. I mean, look, I don't see age. I really don't. I see, I see people wanting to look good. And I know I'm of a certain age, but I know my daughter-in-laws who are in their, early to mid 30s, they're also, that age group is also customer. I think is that an older millennial or a
Yeah,
millennial?
it's an older millennial. Yeah.
So, and yes, I'm not targeting, 18-year-olds. And, I think the book is going to reach a lot of women in their, who are just entering the workforce and are trying to figure out their life and their work balance, which there isn't such a thing, as you know. But, to me, any woman is a customer. And yes, the women my age really shops big in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you're also great at social media, and your personal accounts have over 1.4 million followers on Instagram and TikTok, and you're on Substack and YouTube. And a few years ago, you went viral when an influencer with millions of followers left a negative review on one of your foundation products. She was using it wrong, and you responded with your own video parodying her and quadrupled your sales. Talk about the creator economy built by makeup artists and beauty influencers. YouTube and social media have transformed cosmetics in a way that would have been impossible to predict when you were starting Bobbi Brown Cosmetics.
Oh, I think it's so much fun. Like, this is not, I don't do this because it helps the brand. I know it does. Of course it does. I find it fascinating and interesting. Because you get to connect with people that you wouldn't normally connect with. And I tend to make friends on Instagram. It's really, I admire someone, I say something, and they're like, oh my God, I admire you back. And, you just start this, like, hop on the phone with someone and they can't believe they're talking to me. I can't believe I'm talking to them. And it wouldn't have happened. I'm not going to call and say, do you want to have lunch date? Like, I don't go out to coffee. I don't go out to tea. I don't meet people for drinks. But I could connect with people on my social media. And, am I addicted to it? I'm not addicted to it. I just love it. I'm really curious and I get to learn so much and I'm highly visual. I need to look at things all the
So
time.
talk about it as a business plan, because like there's all these new makeup brands, right? And they're mostly small. Let's be clear. Most of these things are pretty small. Talk a little bit about how it affects, because you have all the makeup influencers, you have people testing, you yourself were answering questions from users constantly.
Right. Well, it's honestly everything. So right away when people are struggling with one of your new products. We first launched Miracle Balm and people are like, there's
Explain
no
what
color.
Miracle Balm is for
Okay,
people. This
yeah.
is my wife's favorite thing you make.
All right, Miracle Balm is one of the products that we launched with, and it's this little tub of makeup that is a skincare, it's color, it could either be a tint, it could be a blush. And this is so good for women of a certain age because when you just look dry and you put makeup on and just something doesn't look good and you don't know why, you're probably tired. But you take this Miracle Balm and you have to dig your finger through the top of it, which we call break the seal. Then you put it on your fingers, put it on your skin, and all of a sudden you look so much better. I put it on my neck, sometimes on my hands, gets the flyaways, and it's became one of our biggest products early on. So that's Miracle Balm. But
Now, some people, like for example, and you pushed up against people, love it,
yeah,
like my wife, and
yeah,
other people do
hate
not.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Other
You
people
kind
hate
of
it.
leaned into the hate
Yes.
too, correct?
Well, you know what? It's about being honest and communicative. So not everyone's going to like this. If you have oily skin, it's not going to be good for you. So then we came out with a face powder and I said, all right, guys, if you have oily skin and want to use Miracle Balm, after you do your foundation, put powder on, then take Miracle Balm only on the tops of your cheek for a little highlighter. That's how you use it. So, I use my educational ability to teach women how to use the makeup. And Jones Road is made not for makeup artists, it's made for women to be able to do their makeup in a car, in a pinch, whatever it is.
And when you think about that, the power of social media in terms of where cosmetics is, so what's the game now online from your perspective? What has changed?
I mean, honestly, just realness. Just the game is realness. The game is how do you get people engaged, right? It's not anymore, the fabulous things. It's the real things, I think, that get people engaged. At least people that are gonna love Jones Road. Not everyone's gonna love Jones Road. I mean, my aesthetic is my aesthetic, and Jones Road, works with, really shows that. But some people still like different kind of makeup.
And how you then compete in sort of the celebrity-driven culture, of Rihanna, Kim Kardashian, whoever it happens to be, is selling makeup or et
I
cetera?
don't try to compete. You can't. You can't. I cannot compete with a Rihanna or a Kardashian. I can't. Their audience, their platform, is way different. And Selena Gomez, she has a great brand. Like a lot of these, successful celebrities have done it, but a lot of them have not done it, have tried, and it hasn't worked.
Right. Who are you impressed with right now, especially online in the makeup game, besides yourself?
Well, I mean, I don't know her, but Hailey Bieber has done a phenomenal job
Explain
at Rhode.
why.
I don't know why. I think because she's so beautiful, her products are very simple, and she has a giant platform. And, she's got these beautiful big lips, and when she goes and draws them in, I can't stop staring at her. So I know a lot of young girls are obsessed with her. Women my age are not looking at Hailey Bieber, but I think she's done a phenomenal job.
Of course, she's just sold part, which is how do you think that? What do you think of deals like that?
I mean, I think it's good on her. I think I know from my experience, it's not going to be all magic. It's going to be tough. I mean, I have so many friends that have started brands, sunscreen brands and skincare brands, undergarment brands, and one by one they sell it,
Mm-hmm.
and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, it often doesn't. It often doesn't. So Jones Road has a few physical stores, but sales are mostly online, correct?
Yes, we're about 10 to 15% are stores. We have
Mhm.
12 stores right now, and we're opening them quicker than I'm comfortable with, but
Why?
I don't
'Cause,
know because
I know.
I like to nurture every little thing, but now I have someone people that will nurture those things. And my son, I don't know who raised this kid, but he's like, you know, he's quick.
He's quick. So,
He's quick.
but you mostly bet on direct to consumer, and you
Yes.
avoid places like Sephora, Ulta, and
Right.
other big
And
department stores.
We have one retail account,
Mhm.
and that's Liberty in the UK.
And why is that? Why did you avoid the Sephoras and everything else?
I've been there, done that.
Mhm.
So, and
Explain
I
what
don't.
that means.
It means it's a whole different business model when you are in retail, and there's deliverables, and there is costs and fees that we don't have in direct to consumer. We own our customer. When you're part of another retailer, they own the customer. So there's so many things, and the profit. You don't have to share the profit with people. So we don't have to. I'm sure someday Jones Road will be. Maybe one day, if and when it gets acquired, it would be on the table for whoever bought us. But we're not even thinking about that right now.
Is that your goal to sell again?
No, no. It is not my goal, but I know who doesn't think about the possibilities, and who would it be? And I know there's not a third makeup brand in me. So this is my love. And if we did sell it, honestly, it would have to go to someone who's a really strategic partner and would understand and give me another 20 something years.
You're also one of the things that's the through line in the book, away from business. You're very candid in the ways you always felt insecure about your appearance. It's something a lot of women can relate to. But young people today have a lot to contend with. There's pressure to look perfect from social media, and celebrities like the Kardashians have ultra normalized plastic surgery. Dermatologists report they're seeing more teens and tweens using anti-aging skincare products like retinol. There's also AI and Ozempic. As someone who's built a career around the natural look, who fought against pressure to create products like skin whiteners, like we talked about, talk about these trends and talk a little bit about your own journey, because it's a through line in the book.
Right. Well, it's a through line in everything I do. Growing up in, the suburbs in Chicago with my tall friends who, we're all on
You're
the
not a
student.
Barbie, you said.
I'm not. I'm 5 foot tall. I'm not a Barbie. And,
Well,
like
you're Skipper. You are Skipper.
okay, I could be Skipper, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm Marianne. I don't
Yeah.
know. But, I was always insecure about the way I looked. And now, I look back and I'm like, I was so friggin' cute in 7th grade. What was wrong with me? But, it's a typical thing that people go through. And, I think it helped me understand what confidence is. And I've always been someone that teaches confidence, which to me is just people that are comfortable in their skin and who they are. That's confidence. It's really just being comfortable. But, a big moment for me growing up, and I talk about her all the time, was Sing Love Story with Ally McGraw, because she was the first brunette, beautiful, outdoorsy, natural looking girl. And, she was a big role model for me, beauty
Mhm.
role model.
Beauty Morad, because she
Beauty,
was simple. Yeah, because she was
yes.
natural,
Mm-hmm.
unusual looking, not
Right.
not pretty. Well, she's beautiful, but a different kind of pretty.
Right.
A different kind of pretty. So talk about young people today, the sort of how you look around at the way things are presented to young people. There is a lot of young people using these anti-aging skincare products more in a more intense and maybe desperate way, it feels like.
I mean, I think it's pretty crazy,
Mhm.
what has happened in beauty society,
Yeah.
Like, try to find a young girl who has natural lips. It's really hard. Everyone thinks it's okay to get your lips done, and it's not. And yes, young girls don't need retinol. I don't, I mean, I liked playing with my mother's makeup when I was a kid, but it wasn't my beauty routine. And, it's unfortunate, but because of social media, it's so available to anyone. So I think it's tough. And, I'm just glad that I have 3 boys, that I
Yeah.
didn't have to raise a girl
Yeah, I
because it
have a
would be
daughter.
tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have one daughter. I worry about it. But in terms of where it's going, what are who is leading beauty standards going forward? Who do you think represents where it's going, or is it just so dissipated like everything else, like all media? It used to be Glamour, Vogue,
Mm.
Cosmo, right? Or 4 department stores. Now it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's like a rain shower. It's really coming from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be a voice. I've written 2 teenage beauty books trying to, help girls feel good about who they are and not comparing yourself. And again, though, both those books were written before social media. So, I know another book is in me to write a young woman or a teenage book. But I think they're getting it from all different, from their friends, but they're getting it from not the best places on social media. And I don't know how, a mother or a parent is going to, prevent that.
Yeah, but there is no Lauder. There doesn't seem to be anyone leading, correct? From the old brands, certainly.
No, I don't think so. There's, I mean, look, what was it, like Yardley when
Hmm.
I was a kid, that was for
Yeah,
young girls,
soap,
and, a couple, I don't even remember what the other
Clinique.
brands. Yeah.
Cl-
Well, Clinique was not for young girls. It was
Right.
for like college
Yeah.
girls or,
Right.
going into the workforce.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of teenage brands right now. There's a lot of brands that are marketing to 7-year-old girls. I think there was a skincare brand that was just had 80,000 fans show up at the Meadowlands from
Hmm.
this one like social media girl.
Hmm.
80,000. Like
Hmm.
I saw the pictures. It's not even believable how mothers would take their 8-year-old and 10-year-old kids, 80,000 of them, to show up to buy this skincare product.
Salish Matter was the creator. Yeah, these things pop up and then go away pretty quickly, which is what happens among a lot of these people. But they're getting their messages elsewhere when they used to get it from magazines. How do you figure out what new products you should have? Obviously, you're not going to have 80,000 people in the Meadowlands, would
No,
be my
no.
guess.
Well, I listen to people. I mean, I listen both online and when I go into a store, what people are struggling with and what do they need. I never have, a loss for ideas. I have a lot of products in the pipeline. I see things out there and I'm like, oh my God, this color is amazing. But what if we did this? Being an entrepreneur, that's how I think about makeup. What if this was this and this had this? So, I don't want to overload Jones Road assortment
Hmm.
because I like to keep things simple, but I
Hmm.
also love creating products. So,
Hmm.
we have a new lipstick we just launched, kind of a
Back to
celebration.
lipsticks?
We launched a new lipstick.
Hmm.
With the book, we launched a lipstick, 12 colors, and they're all like nude colors of the lips. So it was kind of a full circle moment for me. And we talk about how I even got these original lipsticks, out in the marketplace. So, you have to discontinue things. Like we had to discontinue a whole category of lipsticks because I don't want 4 of them. I want 1 or 2 of them.
Is there any product that you absolutely want to have for Jones Road?
I'm very excited. We have 2 different higher, fuller coverage concealers that work when you're really tired that don't get in the lines. So that's kind of a lot of what I'm focusing on now is things that have a little bit more coverage, but they don't look bad. They actually look good because most concealers, you go in a store, buy a concealer, you look terrible.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good. So I'm all about the feel and the texture.
Okay.
And after all these years, I'm still excited about it. That's what's so weird.
Well, then you can stop when you're done being
Yeah.
excited. So my last question, you obviously started a company from your house in suburban New Jersey. You scaled it, you sold it, left it, waited out your non-compete, started a new company and found success again. It's hard to do it twice, that's for sure, for most people. I'd love you to give some people who are young entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneurs of any age, actually, what you think the key lessons that you would impart to them are as an entrepreneur.
First of all, to breathe. Like, no one tells entrepreneurs to breathe. You have to breathe.
No, you're supposed to hustle, my friend.
No, you have to breathe. Like, you have to breathe because everyone is such, I need a Series A, I need a Series B. No, calm down. You need to nurture this baby. You need to understand what your brand is. You need to understand what it means to work in, an office with people or out of your house. I tell many young entrepreneurs, go get a job. I don't care if it's for a year. Just understand what you don't want to do and how you don't want to do things. You will learn things. But also make sure whatever your brand is, that there's a reason for it. And you're not just doing it because you want a makeup line or you want a granola company. Look at what's out there and how is yours different? How are you going to differentiate it? And, you have to always be thinking.
What's the biggest mistake you think you've made?
Not breathing. It's easy to give advice. I definitely don't breathe. I don't calm down. And probably the biggest mistakes I've made are hires that I've done that are not good. And it's taken, sometimes I worry that it's me and I try to do it. And then, it's tough to fire people.
It's hard. It's very hard. Often people don't fire fast enough.
Right. And by the way, most of those people that you want to fire, it's good for them to be fired because it's not the right fit.
As you're moving along. So, very last question. When you say still Bobbi, what does that mean?
Well, the book is called Still Bobbi because first of all, it was a very cathartic experience writing it. And I started understanding how and why and how I maneuvered through a lot of these things. But no matter what I did, and I've had some really cool, interesting, I was in a motorcade. Who gets to go in a presidential motorcade? A makeup artist. Like, it's just weird, and I love that I was able to tell this story because when I left and I went home, I was still Bobbi. I didn't come home like, my husband would not have allowed me to come home, being aren't I great? So, and it's my comfort place, honestly, is still being Bobbi, being around people that I don't need to get my hair done or wear high shoes. That's kind of my comfort zone right now.
All right, Bobbi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Today's show was produced by Christian Castro-Russell, Kateri Yoakum, Michelle Alloy, Megan Burney, and Kaylin Lynch. Nishat Kurwa is Vox Media's executive producer of podcasts. Special thanks to Catherine Barner. Our theme music is by Trackademics. If you're already following the show, you're Skipper. If not, keep letting Mama tell you what to do. You'll be unhappy. Thanks for watching. See you on Monday.